Welcome to Level Check Roblox. This is your in-game parent review for Anime Expeditions, the release update. And I'm here to answer one question. Is this game suitable for your child? Remember, nobody knows your child better than you do, and it's my job here at Level Check to play these games so that you don't have to, and then you can make an informed decision about if it is right for your child. Timestamps are in the description as always, and if you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button to help other parents find this kind of content, that would really help me out as well. So let's dive straight into this game, starting off with the Roblox homepage to see what the devs say. So I've noticed for a few days now that in the top trending spot is Anime Expeditions, and it has got a whopping 97% like rate with over 190,000 active players. That's people actively playing the game now when I've reviewed this. So when I go into this title, it says here the maturity level is minimal, which is minimal for blood, which is light and unrealistic. Now, minimal means that under the new safety guidelines, this is pushed to the screens of children from as young as 5 years old all the way through to the top level of age 17. Looking at the thumbnail, this guy looks a bit creepy, so we'll get a little bit into that and just see if that's anything that's just artwork or if it's in the game and something to be concerned of. But essentially, this is a tower defense game. It says summon powerful units from your favorite anime universe. I mean, I wouldn't have thought there's many 5-year-olds watching anime, if I'm honest, but it is still available to them. It's got 219 odd million visits. Well, it's been around for a year, but that could just be while they've been developing it. The important date, though, is the 24th of July 2026. That's the play version that I am testing for this update. So let's get into it and see what it is all about. So when you jump into this game, you're asked to pick a character, which is quite difficult if you've never played it before because you've got no idea what any of the stats mean. But then it puts you into this kind of lobby area where there isn't an active game going on. Like a lot of tower defense games, you have to kind of go off and either play solo or join a group. And it can, I think, be quite overwhelming or daunting for a younger player of around 5 to 7, because if they've never played this before, they might not necessarily know what to do. There are certainly a lot of areas here to explore, but if you do go and speak to the NPC at the start, it will then kind of put you in the right place of where you need to go. And that will be sending the player off into the summoning area where they are then expected to open mystery boxes to then get their towers. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. What I will say though is that there isn't any sort of aggressive pop-ups, there weren't inappropriate adverts, there's nothing kind of leading me off platform anywhere, but there is the ability to speak through local or global chat, and the same with voice activated chat as well. So you just need to make sure that those settings are correct in your parent account and you're happy for your child to be interacting in those ways. Because you can play solo, you also can play as a team. There is that expectation as a strategy game that you would need to partly communicate with your team anyway. So what do you actually have to do in this game? Well, it is a tower defense game, which if you're not sure what they are, basically you go from the lobby either going it alone, solo, or you join a team, and it takes you onto a map where there is a path that enemies are going to follow through. They enter from one side, your base is at the other side, and if they get through and complete that path, then you take damage, and ultimately if you then get to 0 health points, then you lose. If you beat all of the waves, then you win. As you can imagine, there is a whole host of different units with different abilities, different strengths, and their own weaknesses. So it's not only about trying to fight off these enemies, it's also about thinking strategically about where you place certain units and what units you actually go and place, because there is a limit cap on what you can put down. Straight off the bat, looking at this game, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of problems here, not from sort of things like violence and psychological issues, but we need to put it through the risk review because there are a few things to tell you about. So with my risk review, 0 stars is minimal or not present at all, up to 5 stars being the absolute maximum, and I look over quite a few different themes. I like to start off with violence. So when I review violence, I'm looking for things like realistic combat, the inclusion of things like blood or gore and how realistic that is, and essentially anything that could be classed as distressing that would have a negative or adverse impact on a child. There was a maturity label for blood in this game, although as much as I tried to zoom in and look for it, I couldn't see any anywhere. So taking this as is, because most children won't go in and mess around with options, I genuinely didn't really see any blood here, and the violent elements of the levels, well, it was like a single slash of a sword or something, and then things just either fall or disappear. So I didn't see that this was really violent, so I went with half a star because there's no PvP elements, and the violence, if there is any at all really, is very minimal. So moving on to look at psychological and emotional elements then, the things I'm looking at here are any parts of the game that are going to legitimately cause your child potential real world nightmares, or anything that is going to adversely affect their mental state. From an emotional point of view, I'm talking about things like inducing rage or building frustration, and I've got to be honest, I've given this half a star as well, because I don't really see that there is a great deal here that is going to cause those kinds of issues. If anything, the characters are very blocky, and by that I'm talking about the enemy towers. Everything is quite blocky, the violence is quite tame, the music is very cinematic rather than dramatic, so I genuinely don't really see that there are many issues here. If anything, I suppose it might be quite difficult for a 5-year-old to understand because the game is quite tactical, but I certainly don't think that that would be a reason to stop a child from playing the game. Before we head off onto the final part of the risk review, I need to explain to you one thing, and that is that all of my reviews are completely impartial and from the perspective that I see things as a parent. I am not endorsed by Roblox or the game developers, so what you hear from me is genuinely how I see things as a parent to 3 children of my own. So the final section for me is financial, and here I'm looking at things like whether or not the purchases made with Robux are transparent, whether they are value for money in what your child is actually getting, and also assessing things like whether or not this is a cash grab from the developers, or if the things that you can buy actually have legitimate utility within the game and are usable. Some of you may raise an eyebrow at 3.5 stars, but let me explain to you why. This game is all about summoning the best towers that you can get so that you can defend your base from these enemies. The way that you do that is you use these in-game currency crystals, and you essentially open mystery boxes to try and get better towers. Now this is where I have a problem with it. There's been a load of media coverage about mystery boxes and introducing the element of gambling. So whilst you might be a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old and you are fully in control of your emotions and your spending habits, for a lot of children or children with an addictive personality, gambling is just a sheer no-no. And there's actually games like Tower Heroes, a similar type of game, where they've actually removed that function from accounts aged under 10, so you actually have to save up the in-game money to buy the exact tower that you want rather than gambling. This game does a really good job of inducing that gambling loop to children by basically saying play the game and get the crystals, use the crystals to summon more characters, and repeat that cycle. And when you don't have the crystals to summon new characters, and bearing in mind you're not in control particularly of what you are getting, then you can potentially spend Robux on consumables that are either going to enhance your chance of getting something decent, like the rarer items, or alternatively, you can just simply buy more currency and keep gambling. Now, look, I know that this is probably not going to be a popular viewpoint, but look, I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to be honest and give the facts behind these games. As somebody with younger children as well as an older child, I wouldn't want to be exposing them into a world where they are frequently encouraged to be gambling to see what items they can get. And to be absolutely brutally honest, this game feels like a cash grab by the game developers, because half of the consumables I can't see that you really need them. And I do think that at a later point of this game, there is going to be a paywall where if you don't have mythic level towers, it is going to be very difficult to get through a lot of the levels unless you're paired with somebody in a group who has got that. So from my point of view, I think that 3.5 stars is probably even maybe a little bit on the lenient side of a game that has the potential to be really quite detrimental to children's spending habits and developing an addictive personality. So look, let's wrap this up with a quick summary then. From a violence point of view and from a psychological and emotional point of view, is this game suitable for your child? The chances are, yes, it probably is, even from the ages of around 5, because the actual threat levels and risk levels are very minimal. But from a financial point of view, you need to know that this game is all about gambling on mystery boxes. It is going to get your child spending their in-game currency on essentially items they have no control over whether or not they get the items that they want, and it does encourage the spending of Robux to get consumable items to improve the chances of luck when opening these mystery boxes through summoning the characters. I hope that this review from the viewpoint of a parent has been useful to you today. If it has, please do hit the thumbs up button to help other parents find this kind of content, and subscribe to Level Check Roblox for more in-game reviews just like this one, because not everything is as safe as the Roblox algorithm will have you believe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.